shot. It's up and...
Rule 25A. A player who has safely entered the right-of-way of another player along the established path that the ball has already traveled, and who is following the ball may slow down or stop in that right-of-way, provided that players approaching from behind have sufficient time to go around. A player is considered to be on the established path the ball has traveled once the ball is ahead of his stirrup. Note the position of the ball ahead of this player's stirrup before he slows. He may slow down or stop here to avoid a bump from his opponent in the dark jersey as he is following the ball along the path already established.
Assuming that you've maintained your speed and the ball has passed your stirrup and you're in that exact right-of-way, then yes, you can go ahead and back the ball. And that's where umpiring positioning is crucial, because he's got to be able to see whether you drifted into the line or the ball came past your stirrup.
In this example, the player in the dark jersey hits the ball up past his opponent's mount. The ball passes his stirrup, and he neither slows or moves left or right to put it there. Therefore, he is considered to be on the established path the ball has already traveled and is entitled to the right-of-way. Because the player has met the necessary conditions, he may hit the ball at this point without fouling the dark opponent behind.
The conditions for that have to be: the player who hit the ball is directly behind the player in front, he has to be established on the line, and that ball has to go exactly underneath your stirrup.
Here, the player in the dark jersey hits up alongside his opponent in the light jersey, who swings at it as it passes. The light player was established along the near side right-of-way, and it is therefore no foul for him to swing at the ball as it passes. Also note the relative speeds of both players. They are moving at a nearly equal and fairly slow pace, and the light player does not cause his opponent to slow down or pull up in the right-of-way. It is again the perception of danger, not actual danger, that determines when a player who is entering into the right-of-way of another player has fouled. A player who enters and slows along the established path of the ball, as the light player in the foreground does here, must do so at a safe distance in front of oncoming players. The player in the light jersey enters late into the path the ball has already traveled and crosses over the line into his dark opponent's near side right-of-way. He then slows down in front of his opponent, who is closing fast from behind on the established path, making this play all the more dangerous. Relative speeds are a key factor when evaluating stopping on the ball plays. Rule 25B. A player who has safely entered the right-of-way of another player along the projected path that the ball has yet to travel, whether meeting or following the ball, may not slow down or stop in that other player's right-of-way. A player entering along the projected path of the ball may not stop or wait for the ball to pass his stirrup, as the player in the dark jersey does here. The player in the bright jersey is traveling along the established path the ball has already traveled, while his opponent in the dark jersey is slowing down on the projected path the ball has yet to travel. By slowing down in front of the ball, the dark player blocks his opponent's right-of-way and fouls. Here is an accepted way to defend a player who is stopping on the ball. Note the angle of contact and relative speeds of the ponies. Number 3 in the light jersey in the offside right-of-way begins to check as he is approached by his number 1 opponent in the dark jersey. As light checks to avoid contact, his opponent checks with him. Light pushes ahead with the opponent riding off at his shoulder. Although the angle is severe, the pace is slow and there is no apparent danger. As the dark player drives across the light player, light checks and dark scoops the ball from the near side. Again, the defender in the dark jersey could have made a smoother play, but it was clean and safe enough given the speeds of the two players and is therefore not a foul. Stopping or slowing on the ball to prevent a defensive play, as number 3 light does here, is being discouraged by allowing more leeway to the defender.
The new interpretation of stopping on the ball is that plays that may be dangerous with speed are not as dangerous when you take the speed away. bump that is at a too big an angle to make with speed may not be dangerous with no speed.
This example demonstrates the defender's rights in stopping on the ball situations. The number 3 player in the light jersey slows and eventually stops to avoid contact with his defender in the dark jersey, as is his right. Light moves forward. Dark makes legal contact and pushes across. As the dark defender is not endangering his light opponent in any way, he is entitled to continue onto the ball and hit it on the offside. However, dark pulls off light again and waits for him to move forward.
So by stopping on the ball, by taking my horse from a run or a gallop to a trot, walk, stop, even back up, removes a lot of the danger that is caused. If I cross somebody 5 yards out ahead of him, that's not nearly as dangerous. If I bump him at a bigger angle, it's not as dangerous. And as long as it's not as dangerous, it should not be a foul.
However, an opponent should not be allowed to merely slide across in front of a player with the right of way unless that player has clearly slowed or stopped. The player in the dark jersey slides over and into the right of way of his opponent in the bright jersey, who is pushing up the line. The player in the bright jersey checks to avoid the bump as his dark opponent slides in front, but if he had not checked and had continued with pace, the dark player would have been in an extremely compromised situation. Foul on dark. The difference between this play and the previous one is that the player in the dark jersey finds himself on the near side of the ball after the bump. The player in the light jersey, by checking as he is bumped, actually gives up the offside play he might have had.
If I'm coming to take him legally, why should he have to check? He only checks because he's beaten. I know it because I've been this guy.
From the reverse angle, note that the light player gives up his right to a play when he checks. Not expecting a foul to be called in his favor, he turns and goes on to the next play.
I should have to push anyway to try and make a defensive play because my offensive play is now turned into a defensive play to try to keep this guy from getting the ball. But there is no danger if I check and this guy goes on.
Speed is always the issue in determining when it is safe to enter the right of way of an opponent who is stopping on the ball. Here, the number 2 dark player stops and turns on the ball. The light player approaches to defend on the play, and dark taps under his pony. Dark allows him time to move out of the new right of way, then taps again. Since there is no speed involved, the light player should not be penalized for reaching down and hitting the ball back, even though his horse's head may have crossed the line. This play demonstrates the difference between stopping on the ball and stopping to protect oneself from a collision, as the number 3 dark player must here. A dangerous play should never be allowed in order to discourage a player from stopping on the ball. Also, the right of way does not disappear whenever a player slows or stops on it, as dark does here. By blocking dark's right of way, the player in the light jersey has committed both a dangerous riding foul and a right of way foul.
I think that when somebody blocks a right of way on purpose, that's one of the dirtiest and most common plays in modern polo, and that should be penalized. It should be moved to a severe penalty.